Check, 1, 2. Okay, I'd like to call the Physical Service Committee to order. Please call the roll.
Councilor Enright.
Here.
Councilor Walker. Here. Councilor Barlow. Councilor McLaughlin.
Here. I'd like to approve the minutes of April 6th, 2015 committee meeting.
Make a motion. Second.
Councilor Enright.
Yes.
Councilor Walker.
Yes.
Councilor Barlow.
Yes.
Councilor McLaughlin.
Yes.
I see no old business here, so under new business, under authorizations, number 1, it says the engineer's office has received a request from Tom Millar, 17 West Cayuga Street, located in the First Ward for use of public space, 6 feet by 7 foot, to create an emergency exit by removing the current Bilco doors and installing 2 metal rails as a code enforcement requirement between the curb and property line fronting West First Street. Is Mr. Millar, anybody here to speak on that? Is there any questions? Councilor Todd? Well, I've done a little bit of homework on this here, and as far as I can tell, he doesn't owe any back taxes or water from there. Now, is there some other fees that you feel that he owes here? Okay, I don't want to table this, but if we can do some investigation on that, and maybe we can, if before Monday when we vote on that, we find that he does, we can pull it. Does that meet? No, I agree. Councilor Van Buren?
As I understand it, he does owe $60,000 on the Woodruff building. There was an action filed from BS&K on behalf of the city. I believe that the code, after speaking to Assistant City Attorney Reynolds, it does not cover that amount. There was an error in how it was worded. It was his intent to include those fees and monies. It was corrected when we did the tax incentive law. That was changed so that was included. But as it stands with the old one, it's not there. That doesn't mean that it's off the table for us to do that once the change is made, but he is in default.
Okay, so what would your recommendation be to take no action on this?
I'll leave that in your hands, Counselor. He is potentially in default of the money, although he's not in violation of the current code. He isn't here to speak to the action, so that's on your hands if you'd like to take it.
Okay, well, I'd just like to take no action on this until we can come to a conclusion of whether he does not or does owe us money according to what we've agreed on from our back taxes and water bills or any fees that are owed to the city. Okay, let's move on to number 2. Under authorization, Mayor Gillen received correspondence from Ann Backer, owner of Taste of the World at Canal Commons, for permission to close West First Street between West Oneida Street and West Bridge Street on Sunday afternoons, May 3rd and 17th, June 7th and the 21st, July 5th and the 19th for the Mugs and Motors Community Car Show and waiver the fee for a closure of the street. Is Ann here to speak? Ann. I'll step up to the podium.
Good evening. I just would like to address very briefly and give a little summary of last year's Mugs and Motors Car Show. I felt it was a great success for our first year. Some weeks were better attended than others, but again, it was the first year with minimal advertising on it and not really being able to reach out to the car clubs before their circuit was formed for the year. This year, what we've done is we're partnering with the folks from Port City Co-op who are planning to operate or hold a open-air flea market in the Pathfinder Bank parking lot on West 2nd Street. They've received permission from Pathfinder Bank, so we're doing this as a joint venture together, and we have secured, and Steve Phillips here could collaborate this with me, but he We've been working with, Fitzgibbons Insurance Agency to secure insurance that will cover both the open-air flea market and the Mugs and Motors Car Show. So we'll have that, and then that will be in place in plenty of time for the start of the car show. Last year's car show saw, Oswego saw car owners coming in from the Oswego area, Fulton, Hannibal, Granby, Scriba, Baldwinsville, Liverpool, Martville, Fort Drum, and Whitesboro, just to name a few of the areas. I didn't require cars to sign in every week, but some weeks we did, and these were the areas that we saw vehicles coming in from. We also had spectators attending the event that were here in the city, not necessarily for our car show, but they were happy to stumble upon the car show while they were here, from Long Island, Fairhaven, Mattydale, New Jersey, Virginia, Maryland, to just name a few of the far-reaching states that of people who were in Oswego and happened to stroll downtown and come to the car show that day. We also saw vehicles as old as a 1930 Model A, right on up to modern-day cars. Some 2014 Corvette, I think, was here last year. So the Mugs and Motors Car Show is not just a classic car show, but it's a car show for anybody who has a vehicle they're proud of and wants to show it. People who did come in with their vehicles received a nice little dash plaque, which if you're a car owner, you know you like to collect the dash plaques. So it had the Mugs and Motors logo and the year. They also received a nice insulated coffee mug as a thank you gift for coming down, and as well as other promotional materials from businesses in the area, Fred's Auto, Burritt Chevrolet, many other businesses helped put on last year's event. So I think it was a success, and I'd love to have you folks vote to approve it again this year and see what we can do with it. Hopefully it's going to be bigger and better, and I don't know, I guess that's it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to field them.
Any questions? Councilman Van
Just a
Buren?
comment. My wife, son, and I walked down a few times. I thought you put on a great event. It was cool to see people stumble on in, and a lot of times they would ask if they could go back and get their cars and come back. So people would bring their own down after seeing what was going on. I'm really happy to see you guys expanding. I'm happy to support it.
I think the expansion with the open-air flea market on West 2nd Street on the same weekends as we're holding the car show is going to really be a great way to bring even more people downtown. So somebody might not necessarily come to a car show, but they'll come to a flea market and then they'll see the car show going on. So it's going to be, I think, good for the community in general.
Is there? Steve?
I can just add, both of these events are free to the public.
Right? Yep, no fees.
Anybody else? Counselor? Right.
I'd like to speak on behalf of the chamber, but also as living in the community. I had a chance to go down to the Mugs and Motors a few times, and a little humbly didn't really recognize all the benefits of it. There were some hot dogs with some hot sauce and Rudy's there. They were pretty good, and I had a couple of those. But there was also music that was provided on a weekly basis as well. And I think with the concentration of the schedule, there were times where there were over 70 cars at the show. And to look at Sunday afternoon in downtown Oswego, this is bringing some activity. And from the chamber's perspective, I think that's great, but also as a community member, I think that's a great opportunity on Sunday afternoons to have something to do. And we'll be open to free market, we'll even have more benefits. I'm in great support of this event.
Any more questions? I'd like to say I had a lot of positive feedback also.
Thank you.
I was real happy to see that downtown there's something going on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So I'd like to move this forward if I could.
Counselor Enright?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Barlow?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Resolution on that?
We have one.
And we got number 3, Mike Smith, DPW Commissioner, received correspondence from the Greater Oswego Fulton Chamber of Commerce for use of the Veterans Memorial Park stage and adjacent parking area for food vendors to the north to hold summer concert series and Friday nights from June 26, 2015 through August 28, 2015, excluding Harborfest Week. They are requesting use from 3 p.m. until 9 p.m. to allow for setup and takedown of concert equipment and food vendor stands. Concerts are scheduled from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. each Friday. Lastly, they are requesting the city to provide power, trash cans, and collection and use of restrooms. Mike here?
Council.
Yes.
I spoke with Commissioner Smith before he went on vacation. Nate Emmons contacted myself and a few others to get the ball rolling on this expansion. This is just another great event that we have someone that's looking to put some energy into it, expand it into something bigger over the weekend. Commissioner Smith met with Nate and they went over some details and didn't see this as much of an issue. I believe Chief McCroby was also involved a little bit just on how the vendors would get down there and for parking. Nate can go into more detail, but Commissioner supports this. Going forward.
Thank you, Councilman.
Turn it over.
Just real quick, I mean, the summer concert series has been around for quite some time. Traditionally, it's taking place on Tuesday nights along the Veterans Stage area. When I had an opportunity through my company, Just Push Play Production, to become the event manager for the summer concert series through my association with the Chamber of Commerce, I took that opportunity, sat down with Greg here and talked about how could we change this program to expand it, to provide more opportunities for the community to be involved in it. I think we landed at a good point or place of thinking about Friday nights as a lead-in to the weekend to really provide opportunities for not only our community, but certainly for tourists that are in town to enjoy something on a Friday evening, early enough in the evening that wouldn't impact the senior housing that's right there, but also early enough in the evening where if there's other bands or concerts going on at local establishments, they were certainly happening later in that night. Just as a side note, too, I think our Veterans Stage area and the Riverwalk is probably one of the most underutilized treasures in our city. And for me, I'm very passionate about bringing something down to that area that hopefully will bring a lot of community members down there and just see the beauty of our river and our Veterans Stage area. So, and I thank Chief McCroby for his help with this and the Commissioner as well for listening to me and hopefully providing some support.
I just want to kind of reiterate and echo what Nate's talking about, but also provide clarity. I think about a month or so ago, I was in front of the council. The committee's talking about the chamber needing to have assistance with some of the programs and events that the chamber was involved in, and Nate made a proposal to do that. We had a conversation. Just Push Play is contracted to be the event manager for the event. As in the past, it's been a once-a-month event. I think there's a great opportunity, as Nate mentioned, to broaden the event and put it out there for the community to benefit from on a regular basis. And just like with Ann's situation with the Mugs and Motors, we're bringing people to our downtown, we're bringing people to the treasures that we have in our community, and hopefully bringing people from the outside to benefit from them and see the great things that we have here in Cedar Falls. So I'm in great support of Nate's idea, his mission, and his purpose to make this a better event for the community. Take a resource that we have and again, utilize it to its maximum benefit. Thank you.
Any more questions or comments? Yes, Councilman.
Just make one quick one to follow up on Greg Mills's statements. When he brought this before us, this is one of the reasons I was excited that he brought this proposal about expanding the management of the programs and the events that we offer in the city. This is where we see community organizations, local businesses getting involved and expanding those with some new energy and some new ideas. So I'm happy to see we're getting returns on that decision already. And I just wanted to thank Greg and Nate for doing that.
Actually, I agree. I'm really glad to see the use of downtown community going here. So I'd like to move this.
Councilor Enright.
Yes.
Councilor Walker.
Yes.
Councilor Barlow.
Yes.
Councilor McLaughlin.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
Barb Sugar, City Clerk, received a request from Nicholas J. Stereo, owner of Lighthouse Lanes LLC, located at 295 East Albany Street, for a variance or permit to operate outside the decibel limit set forth in the noise ordinance in order to have live music outside in the parking lot, as they are hosting their Super Summer Concert Series on various Fridays during the months of July, August, and possibly September for rain dates, from 6 p.m. until 12 a.m. Let me hear the speak on that. Want to step up to it?
Nick Serino. First of all, the name is Serino, not Stereo.
Hi.
Hello? Yeah. My name is Nick Serino. I'm the co-owner of Lighthouse Lanes located at 295 East Albany Street, right by Oswego Speedway. I'm here to request a variance to the local noise ordinance so we could have some outdoor live music in our parking lot on Friday nights, July and August, and possible September if there's a rain date. This is our 6th year of this, and the previous 5 years I feel have gone pretty smooth. There hasn't been really too much problems at all. We have our own security force that takes care of security. They do a pretty good job. The local police have been quite cooperative with us. Again, these concerts are free to the public. There's no charge. And I hope that we can continue with your blessing to go forward. If there's any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Any questions or comments? I'd like to hear from the council.
I've only had one complaint through the years you had, and we rectified the problem. I called Mr. Mofer and took care of the problem. And otherwise, that, I hope you don't have no problem. I support it.
Any other comments, questions?
I'll make a motion if there's none.
Second.
Counselor Enright?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Barlow?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next. Barb Sugar, City Clerk, received a request from Elizabeth and Robert McGrath, owners of Spencer's Alley Tavern located at 124 West 2nd Street, for a variance or permit to operate outside of the decibel limits set forth in the noise ordinance in order to have live music in their establishment Thursdays through Saturday from May 15th through September 15th. I have talked to Mr. McGrath and Robert, as we've discussed, you were willing to take off the other dates except for the month of May in order to have time to have your sound panels constructed and in place. And I feel that's a fair request, and I have no problem with this request for an 85 decibel variation as long as you're doing what you said you're going to be doing. Is that acceptable to you?
Well, we talked earlier today about me coming back in the beginning of June or middle of June because I haven't got my building permit yet to construct this structure that I want to put up. I started in February and I'm still waiting for it to get out of zoning. So I have no panels to put up. I have no structure to put up until I get this permit, and my booked music starts on May 16th. So earlier when I talked to the counselor, we talked about letting me go 3 weekends in May, and by then, hopefully, I can have these panels up along with my structure. At that time, do a sound study. But we also talked about all the places I've looked that do sound limits in their downtowns. It's from New York City up to Oswego. It's usually measured at the point of the complaint, which is not my front door, but it's the homeowner that is complaining. A lot of them say you go inside the living room. I'm saying, well, during the summer months, we should be able to take it from the middle of the road in front of their house, and whatever the decibel limit is acceptable for that neighborhood at that time of night. If we're over that, of course, we have to turn it down, but if we're under that, the complaint's pretty much non-existent. And I went through New York up to here, and most of them are doing that, because there's no way I can promise you that I can give you 85 decibels at my front door. It's impossible to do.
Is there any questions or comments? Phillips? Yes, Mr. Phillips.
mic so we can hear, the public can hear this.
My name is Stephen Phillips. I live at 53 West Seneca Street. As all of you are aware, we had about 14 homeowners that showed up that were not at all happy with this request. At that particular time, Councilman Wright suggested that Mr. McGrath meet with the neighbors and come to some sort of a compromise. We have not heard a word from Mr. McGrath. The neighborhood's position has not changed at all. And as much as I certainly don't want to harm Mr. McGrath's business, and there are times that I hear that Oswego is not business friendly, I just want to make sure that everybody is reminded that the biggest business in the city is neighborhoods. We pay more taxes, we employ more people, we employ all of you, we employ firemen, policemen. Not only do we employ city employees, but we also employ private contractors, home care people. Anybody who is working within the city limits and are working in our neighborhoods, those are direct benefits of us. If you add up the market value of the homes simply around the park, around Franklin Park, it is just shy of $4 million, of which we pay $175,863 in annual taxes. So we are a good taxpayer. We are a good employer. We also are a good neighbor. So we want to work something out. But I believe the way the law is written, the decibel reading is taken at the sidewalk in front of the location. I would also ask that anything that you folks consider, that you put the same restraint on it as you did with the stings. 2 violations, they lose the variance for the rest of the season. There's got to be some sort of consequence for somebody not complying to whatever is agreed upon. That's all I got. Thanks.
Anybody else for comment or question? Mr. McGrath? If nothing is done, nothing has been done different than what happened the last time, I can't see changing my decision anyways from there. But I'm asking you to reconsider what my proposal was here in the beginning, was to accept a variance of 85 decibels for the month of May until you have a chance to put those sound panels in place, and then work with the neighbors, your sound meters, take your readings out in front of your place and come back to us with another request for the season. I feel that's fair on our part, and I think that the neighbors would feel that that would be an acceptable compromise, and I think we can get through this working with you and the neighbors and the rest of the city. So how do you feel about that? I mean, is there any reason why you would not want to agree to that?
No, my only point on that is that you can't get 85 or less decibels standing at my front door. The stage is right here. You're going to stand at my front door with a meter and expect to get 85 decibels. It's never going to work. It's never going to work. Now, it could be 75 decibels down at the corner of Dufour's. It could be 50 decibels in the middle of West Park. That I can work with. But at my front door, you're never going to get it down below 85 decibels.
The last time you were here, we did have some people that were experienced musicians that were up here saying that they get played under certain restraints and they use smaller amplifiers.
And my bands play under restraints too. If we can't hold a conversation inside the area, we tell them to turn down or get off the stage. I mean, I'm doing everything I can to be downtown and control this, but again, you're asking for the reading to be taken at my front door and not where the complaint's coming from. There's 2 different worlds there.
So what you're saying is that really no compromise is acceptable.
I'm not
unless we
saying no
change the
compromise,
sound law?
Councilor Enright. Look, I own a business, I want to compromise, but I'm just telling you, 85 at my front door. You think Nick can supply you with 85 at his front door? And you just passed that.
That's what he just put in his paperwork.
Okay, 85. Thank you very much.
Okay, so what we're going to vote on is that we're going to grant Robert McGrath permission to operate for the month of May under the restraints of 85 decibels until he can get his sound barriers in place and give him a chance to get that done. At that point in time, you'll have to come back for an extension on this to ask for the rest of the season. Does that seem fair to you guys? Any comments on this? Steve?
I just would remind you the reason that the neighborhood requested it. If it's not complied with, if that's what you passed, but in fact it's 90 or 95 or 100, that if there are two violations, same restriction you put on the spin, if there are two violations, then the variance is lost for the entire season.
Thank you.
Is that a restriction we put, or is that in the ordinance as it's written? Is that a restriction that we place as the council, or is this something written in the noise ordinance that says that?
I think we put that, if I remember right.
I guess city attorney and...
Oh, you're asking me?
Yes.
I don't have it in front of me, but I do not believe it's in the noise ordinance.
This is for the council. Can we put that restriction on this request?
Council grants a variance, it's discretionary, it can put whatever restrictions it chooses.
Any other comments? Yes, Counselor.
For the police chief. Chief, in the years past, how do you have, and you may not have this record, how many complaints were received from the neighborhood as a result of what was going on at Spending Valley?
I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it was probably single digits at most. And they've been cooperative over time.
And when you received the complaint, they were acted on by the owner?
Any other comments?
I'd like to withdraw the request.
Withdraw the request?
Yep. Thank you for your time.
Okay. We have another request here for physical services from Eric Van Buren, and this is to discuss use of public space for 207, 209, 210, 212, 215, 217, and 219 East 7th Street. Counselor?
Thank you. My name is Eric Van Buren. I live at 207 East 7th Street. I'm representing a group of neighbors. We put in for a pride grant from the Oswego Renaissance Association, and we were awarded the full amount. What we'd like to do is get use of public space to put sidewalk level lamp posts on that side of the street to light up our neighborhood. We've each picked out a lamp post that'll be operated on our power, and we will do the maintenance and maintain that, but we need to get the approval to place those. And 207 is also looking for approval for a curb garden. I'll have more detailed drawings for the council meeting, but I've given you a rough idea of where they'll be placed. And any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Counselor Todd.
Yeah, what they'll do is, yeah, they're going to run the electrical services from each of our homes. They'll trench underneath the sidewalk and then place the power to the poles on the outside of the sidewalk. The idea is just at night to light up the sidewalks and kind of make the neighborhood more inviting. We have a lot of dog walkers. We're all right next to Oak Hill Park. We have another park in between us, so we just thought it would be nice to light up that area, maybe encourage some other folks to do the same.
Yes, Counselor.
They are all going to be of the same design, Mr. Van
Yes.
Buren, or they will all be of the same design?
Yes, we all got together and had a little neighborhood meeting and agreed there'll be a T-bar style design with a kind of a rustic lamp style. They'll have little solar panel on there that they'll be activated by themselves, but we'll also be able to control them with a switch.
Yes, Counsel.
And they will be entirely the responsibility of the homeowner as far as maintenance, so if they are being applied.
Yes, we'll be handling the power, all the maintenance, all that. We'll be handling the cost of installation, light bulb replacement, all of that.
Any more questions or comments? This is your chance.
Related to the topic, Counselor? Thank you.
I think it's a call.
Counselor Enright?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
Yeah.
Counselor Barlow?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Seeing no other business?
Make a motion.
Counselor Enright?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Barlow? Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes. This time, I'd like to call the Administrative Services Committee to order. Could you please call the roll?
Counselor Van Buren?
Here.
Counselor Enright?
Here.
Counselor Capelitz?
Here.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Here.
Counselor Todd?
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the April 6, 2015 committee meeting?
Second.
Counselor Van Buren?
Yes.
Counselor Enright?
Yes.
Counselor Capelitz?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor Todd?
Is there any old business to come before this committee? Seeing none, before we move on to new business, there's a resident who'd like to make a statement. Ma'am, if you could please just step up to the mic and state your name.
Excuse me, I'm nervous. All right. I'm Linda Pickens, and I am a citizen of Oswego, and I would like to make a statement, please. Late in the summer of 2014, excavation was started on the corner of Utica and East First Street. The sign said future home of Hampton Inn. When work started, the soil was dumped over the steep hill adjacent to this site. Soil and boulders started immediately to erode the hill. 2 rows of black plastic were placed at the bottom of the hill, held up by stakes to prevent further erosion, I assume. During the winter, more erosion took place, and the black plastic stakes fell here and there. Where garbage started to collect, there are dangerous pieces of metal objects left there by workers or as a dump site for others. The area is continuing to deteriorate without any sign of cleaning. This area is seen by our citizens out for a lovely walk along the river walk. Right, everybody? We want to go out and have a nice walk on the... Okay. Hey, I'm better than I thought. All right. Let me get back to it. Dangerous pieces of metal objects which children could get into, because I was there today. Also, the 2 black fencings are held up by stakes. The stakes are down, the stakes are up, the stakes are all over. The area is continuing to deteriorate without any sign of cleaning. This area is seen by our citizens out for a lovely walk along our beautiful river. And visitors, very important, and visitors going up and down the lock in their boats stop, have picnics, they stay overnight, and they go up and they are seeing our town with what looks like a dump. It is a horrible eyesore. Part 2. Corner of Utica and East First Street has orange deteriorating web fencing with wood fencing that is rotting and broken. Right next to the sign says, "Welcome to Oswego." I hope everybody looks at that corner. It looks awful. I feel the owner should be responsible for maintaining and upkeep during the process of this project. Thank you very much. Everybody mad at me now? Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Linda. Councilor Kaplan.
I've had, just to kind of follow up a little bit, I think it's nice that some conversations over the last couple of years on this issue and several others as it relates to the river. She is I call her a steward of our waterfront down in that section of town, and she really has done that job and done it well. And I would also point out that I would encourage Ms. Pickens and others, and also our own mayor at some point, to write a letter to the New York State DOT Canal Corp and ask them when they're going to upgrade. There's concrete that is in pretty poor condition down there. And as you look on that linear park across that New York State's property, it is literally crumbling before your eyes. And I think that, an effort should be made also to upgrade that system somehow, some way.
Can I say one more thing?
Please.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Can I say one more thing?
Please, go ahead.
Where the fishermen go out and fish, which there are very few, unfortunately, left, what is it called? Help me. The thing where they stand and fish. The
wall?
The wall.
Yeah.
There are 3 arches, right? The Romans, 2,000 years ago, knew the keystone should be a trapezoid. The keystone on all 3 of those arches are rectangles. All right? One has fallen out, and now the cement is starting to crumble in. The second one is also starting to come down and crumble in. And if someday it goes, you could have a big problem. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be fresh. There could be a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, any questions or comments? Thank you, Linda. Moving on to item number 1 under authorization. Mike Riley, purchasing agent, received a proposal to operate the fish cleaning station located at Wright's Landing. Larry Morosky, owner of Larry's Oswego Salmon Shop, offered $501 to operate the fish cleaning station. The initial term in the request for proposals commenced on or about May 1st, 2015, and ends on or about September 30th, 2015. The term can be extended by the City of Oswego for an additional 2 years at $501 per year. Mike Riley is not here, but this has been kind of a normal thing for us to compete with them. If anyone has any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll take the motion.
Counselor, just one quick question. Is it just the fish cleaning station at White's Landing, or is it also one up by Mr. Ross's
Located at Wright's Landing.
Yeah, I believe he's just doing Wright's Landing.
It's usually either or.
Yeah, I think it's whenever.
He opens one, if he's not down there, he'll open. Yeah. It needs to be in
there so that it says that, so that one's open one or the other. I think he's done that in the past, so let's make sure he didn't omit it, so we can do it. I think he probably meant to do both of them.
All right, we can pass it if that's okay with the council, and I'll have the purchasing agent just double check the language. And see what's in the contract.
Counselor Van Buren?
Yes.
Counselor Enright?
Yes.
Counselor Capelitz?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor Todd?
Yes.
Item number 2, Tori DeCare, Police Chief, on behalf of the Traffic Advisory Committee, requests authorization for the purchasing agent to seek bids for a pedestrian-activated traffic signal to be installed on East First Street at the Harbor Rail Trail crossing. Purchasing agent will then return the results to the Administrative Services Committee for further consideration. Funding for this project will be provided through the New York State Consolidated Local Street and Highway Improvement Program. And there's an attachment. Chief.
Thank you, Chairman. As most of the councilors know, we've been working on this project for quite a while to try to come up with a solution that was plausible and safe. For the rail trail, for the pedestrians that cross there, it can be dangerous because it's a 4-lane roadway. A lot of times if a car stops to allow a pedestrian to travel, a car on the other lane with the same way it's traveling won't be able to see it because of a line of sight issue. This project has actually worked in some other municipalities, and we wanted to try to see if it was going to be a cost-effective solution for ours. And we also believe that the funding would be reimbursable by the CHIPS program.
Thank you, Chief. Councilor Walker, I know you've been championing this cause for a while. Do you want to make any comments?
Yes, thank you. Basically, what the chief said, I mean, I've had nothing but complaints. Pedestrians walking across the road, people aren't stopping, and this will put a stoplight up. They push the button, it'll stop, and they can proceed across the road. And like, I mean, if you're in the center lane, guy blows by you on the side and there's someone walking. You can't see. You know, a lot of people don't see the flashing yellow lights, pedestrian crossing. So, I've been pushing for this for a little while, and I'd like to see it done. I'd like to support on this.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Rick?
Councilman, I had the opportunity to participate during the week of April 6th through the 10th in Pedestrian Safety Week, and Spot the Safety Dog was very successful in getting people to slow down at that intersection. So if we don't have the dog there, I'm a little worried about people that are crossing. When you have 4 lanes of traffic and the inside lane driver starts to slow down and somebody starts to come across the road, the other car, regardless of whether they see, I'm assuming if they see the person, they're going to stop. They see that car stop, they might still go through that intersection and not see the person, or through that crossing and not see the person, and then we have an accident, possibly a fatality on the hands. And during the time that we were there for approximately 4 hours on one day. Having a police presence there, people were stopping all over the place. The dog, I think, helped a little bit as well, but if there is no presence there, whether it be a light or police, people are not recognizing that as a 20-mile-an-hour zone ever. I mean, they're going down through there, coming off of 481. If there's a green light, we're going to see people going 40 miles an hour down through there. So I think this light is a great asset to that crossing. It helps a number of people, not only people that are coming from one side of the city to the other, but the residents of Simeon and DeWitt. Sometimes they're going to be challenging their mobility. They'll be assisted by this light, and I think it would be a great asset to have it installed there.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? As Greg can tell you, I make about 50 laps in that area a day, walking back and forth through the various intersections, so I think this would be a great idea if we have something to accommodate that. I know a ton of people use the tunnel when it's open. It would be nice to get that area a little safer so we can encourage more pedestrian travel, especially in our downtown area and on the east side that's got some businesses that are trying to establish themselves as well, and that would direct them towards that area. Not a lot of people know it, but just behind the library there's a few little shops that are trying to bring themselves into the fold. It would be nice to have a safe spot for them to get in that area. I would certainly support this. If there's no other questions, I'd take a motion on. I'll move it.
Second. Counselor Van Buren?
Yes.
Counselor Enright?
Yes.
Counselor Capelitz?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor Todd?
Thank you, Chief. Moving on to item number 3, the Engineering Department requests approval of change order number 3 for the electrical contract with Patricia Electric for the West Side EF, MF, and pump station upgrade project, in the amount of $0 for the additional costs for electrical modifications to the screw pump grease system required by the manufacturer, together with the additional costs to replace the failed UPS and 24-volt power supply in the existing PLC panel. Funding for this change order is provided in the base contract award under B12A for miscellaneous additional work, and there's an attachment. This is your standard kind of boilerplate change order for us, working within the agreed-upon contract. Is there any questions or comments?
Counselor Van Buren?
Yes.
Counselor Enright?
Yes.
Counselor Capelitz?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor Todd?
Item number 4, the Engineering Department requests approval of change order number 5, decreasing the construction contract with CO Falter Construction Corp. For the West Side EF, MF, and Pump Station Upgrade Project in the amount of $132,373.68 for the money that was not required under the miscellaneous additional work, and there's an attachment. Pretty standard, getting reimbursed for work that was completed that didn't need this full amount. Take a motion.
Second.
Counselor Van Buren?
Yes.
Counselor Enright?
Yes.
Counselor Capelitz?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor Todd?
Yes.
Item number 5, the Engineering Department requests that the mayor be authorized to sign amendment number 5 with GHD Consulting Engineers, LLC, in the amount of $21,000 for the required consent decree quarterly reporting to continue from April 28th, 2015 to January 28th, 2016. These are the reports that are done on behalf of our engineer. I believe Randy Cameron usually heads up that. He's the engineer that does this. He will provide all the information that the federal DEC requires us to provide to them in terms of what our projects are doing, how completed we are, and what the upgrades have required. He also is the one that keeps an eye on a lot of our change orders and contracts. When you see reductions or change orders being made, Randy's usually watching out for us. Very thankful for his services. Any questions or comments?
I called engineering today on this, and I wanted to get a hold of Randy on the amount. And once again, I think $21,000 for a quarterly report that at this point in the game, it should be on the computer, it should be able to be updated without a problem. I think $21,000 is out of line. I know we have to pay for it, and this money is really already spent. It's kind of a mute item. We got to pass it, but I feel that there's room for adjustment on this, and I think because it's a requirement that we're overpaying. But I got to support it because it's already money that it's already been adequately or allotted, and it's already spent. I'm not happy with it.
Council, any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Counselor Van Buren?
Yes.
Counselor Enright?
Yes.
Counselor Capelitz?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor Todd?
Item number 6, Barbara Sugar, City Clerk, received 2015 racing schedule from Oswego Speedway for your review and consideration. The license fee of $500 is on deposit in the clerk's office, and there's an attachment. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the Speedway? This is a fairly standard annual procedure for us. They apply for this regularly. The only thing I will make a comment on is there was some rain date racing that took place after the season that went on until about 1:30 in the morning, and I would have to talk to them about that. I'd like to address that with them. I can't say that I approve. It was right in the beginning of the school year. It took place late August, early September. So I will be bringing that up with them, but I would certainly seek a motion. Councilor Warner.
Through the chair. They leased the track out last year. That was nothing to do with the Oswego Speedway. They leased it out to another company. So, I mean, you can talk to them about it, and they will rectify. I've talked to them about it, and they said they will rectify that problem.
Yeah, I'll certainly bring it up. I want to make sure that the same standards we hold them to, they're holding to their leasing.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Bruce?
I assume the Speedway is in the city limits?
Yes.
The noise ordinance doesn't apply to the Speedway?
They get an entertainment permit. It does not apply to them, just like construction equipment, lawnmowers, snow blowers, all those type of things fall under a completely separate noise variance. So, that's why we can't cite somebody for firing up the snow blower at 4:30 in the morning. As much as I'm sure we'd like to, there's plenty of people to get going, but those aren't the type of things we can get. Any other questions or comments?
Move it.
Act made. Second.
Counselor Van Buren?
Yes.
Counselor Enright?
Yes.
Counselor Capelitz?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor Todd?
Yes.
Item number 7, Michael Smith, DPW Commissioner, received a request from George W. Hoffman Jr. of the Veterans Council of Oswego to use the bandstand for their annual Memorial Day observance on May 25th, 2015. There's an attachment. Commissioner Smith isn't here, but again, this is another annual approval that we do. We've given them use of the stage every year. Anyone has any questions or comments?
Counselor Van Buren.
Yes.
Counselor Enright.
Yes.
Counselor Capelitz.
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counselor Todd.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
Thank you. Item number 8, under travel, Amy Birdsell, Planning and Zoning Director, requests approval for travel to Saratoga Springs, New York, June 24th through the 26th, 2015, to participate in the APA Northeast Planning Conference at a cost of $750. There's an attachment. Amy?
Yes, this is just the annual planning conference, and it's the Northeast Regional Conference this year is going to be held in Saratoga, so it's actually closer, which is great. So it's a conference about all things planning and zoning, and everything that I learned there I'll be able to take back here to the city of Oswego.
Any questions or comments?
I'll move it.
Counselor Van Buren.
Yes.
Counselor Enright.
Yes.
Counselor Capelitz.
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counselor Todd.
Number 9, Michael Smith, DPW Commissioner, requests permission to send one personnel to the 30-hour cooling tower NYS DEC Category 7G training in Syracuse, New York on May 7th, 2015. There's an attachment. Commissioner Smith isn't here, but Deb, does this apply to his aspect that he has to deal with some of the concentric work for the water guys that are under his?
I believe so, but I'm not 100%, but I believe so.
As part of the consent decree, we're actually mandated to have a certain number of heavy machine operators, light machine operators, and laborers. Some of those require specific training, and I believe this is part of it.
Well, it's also in the attachment, there is a notation in there or a mention of pesticide training as well. And I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but pesticide license course at 7G, I do know that we are obligated to have a licensed pesticide applicator, and may have something to do with that as well.
I know that we found out through other avenues. I know we found out from previous problems that we've had that you can't use pesticides like you can in your home. So we do need a licensed person if you want to put drain cleaner or anything else down a drain, or spray bug spray around the bushes or any of that. So it's quite possible that this is also what he wants to do. He only asked me to speak on 2 of his items, and they're coming up, so sorry.
Thank you for that valuable lesson, Chief. And we'll take a motion on that if there's no other questions or comments.
I can tell you whatever, if you can't do anything on the sides, so you've been through all these classes every year, every 2 years, you have to go through a research. And there's some pretty huge fines associated with using pesticides without having licensing and certification.
I think we got one.
Thank you. I'll make a motion.
Second.
Counselor Van Buren.
Yes.
Counselor Enright.
Yes.
Counselor Capelitz.
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counselor Todd.
Yes.
And we'll need a resolution.
Transfer of funds. Item number 10, Michael Smith, DPW Commissioner, requests authorization for the DPW to make the following transfers. $5,000 from Central Garage Materials and Supplies, account A5132.0410, into Central Garage Personnel Services overtime account A5132.0102, and $10,000 from Snow Removal Material and Supplies account to account A5142.0410, into Street Cleaning Personal Services overtime account A8170.0102, and $5,000 from Snow Removal Materials and Supplies account A5142.0410, into Shade Trees and Parks Personal Services overtime account A85600102, and $3,000 from Transmission and Distribution Materials and Supplies account F8340.0410, into Transmission and Distribution Personnel Services overtime account F8340.0102, and $5,000 from Sanitary Sewers Equipment account G8120.0200, into Sanitary Sewers
Personal Services Overtime Account G8120.0102. Mrs. Cole.
This is to realign his budget from the winter work so that he can continue with his summer chores now for the water freeze-ups and the plowing.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Counselor Van Buren?
Yes.
Counselor Enright?
Yes.
Counselor Capelitz?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor Todd?
Yes.
Item number 11, under discussion. Jeff McCroby, Fire Chief, is requesting a discussion on the rental of an ambulance for the 2015 Harbor Fest. Chief.
Because of the amount of people that assemble for Harbor Fest last year, we had to rent, or the Harbor Fest had to rent an ambulance. In theory, they have to go through us because we hold a certificate of need for the area. So last year they paid for $1,000 for the ambulance for the festival. What happened is, because of the sale, Northeast Ambulance, where we got it, was without an ambulance for like they couldn't use the ambulance for like 6 weeks between the titles going back and forth, because it's an actual sale for $1. So when I was discussing it with Bob Riley that owns the company the other day, he said, we can extend, if you would like the period to be extended, it would absorb some of that, because he said I was without an ambulance for this long. In theory, or basically he said, for 2 months, we could have it for $2,000, and so the paperwork would be on its way to arrive and everything, rather than just the 4-day rental. To me, it's a real good thing, because if it covered between May 5th and July 30th, we've got the Bridge Street Run, the Triathlon, Paddle Fest, and Harbor Fest. So I tried to talk to the executive director of Harbor Fest. I wasn't able to get through to him. He's out of town. I think the fee for Harbor Fest should go up, because in theory it's because of them that it needs to be raised. It's up to you guys what you would like it to be, but also we have use of this ambulance for all those other weeks, which we've got a maintenance schedule included, and right now when we take an ambulance out of service for maintenance, we're losing those calls to someone else at an average of $344 a call, and if it's a Syracuse run, it's like $700 right there itself. To me, it makes sense to do this. We need it for the Part 800 permit for the state to have another ambulance here, and based on what he proposed with his conditions, I'm asking for you to support it.
Questions or comments? Mr. Walker?
Can't Mentor do that, Harbor Fest?
Mentor's used at Harbor Fest.
I mean, why should the taxpayers pay this money for that? I know you're getting reimbursed, but is that going to pay the personal services, the retirement, and everything ongoing for the rest of their lives?
We've got money set aside for Harbor Fest overtime. We've got $14,000 set aside for Harbor Fest overtime. Harbor Fest needs an ambulance in order to satisfy this permit. Okay. I don't believe they can cover it, Counselor. Okay.
Councilor Barlow?
Did we rent an ambulance last year for Harbor Fest?
Yes. For 4 days, it was $1,000.
And so why wasn't it budgeted already for this year?
It wasn't budgeted, I believe, because Harbor Fest reimburses us.
So
It has to be in our name because we hold the CON for the area. Harbor Fest cannot rent an ambulance because they're a nonprofit organization. The person that holds the certificate, the company, has to be the one that rents the ambulance for the area. That's a state law.
I also, just not to interrupt, but I also discussed this previously when we authorized the use of public space for Harbor Fest. When we do that, we accept a certain amount of responsibility for Harbor Fest's application for their Part 9 permit. When we support them and give them the use of public space for the event, we take on a certain amount of responsibility for that. So for us to, stop that, we need to stop with the use of public space before we approve the event and allowing the disruption of the potential for over 200,000 people.
through the chair. But is there anything to say that it needs to be a city ambulance? I mean, we can sanction Mentor to perform the obligation of an ambulance.
I believe what the chief's saying, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but we would be doing the same thing. We either contract with Mentor and get them to give us the use of an ambulance, or we would be getting the use through the ambulance, through our own people renting the ambulance. And he's saying, budget the overtime.
I don't know what Mentor's rates are. That's certainly a possibility to look into to rent the ambulance for them to supplement and have a dedicated ambulance right now.
So I guess my point is kind of to what Councilor Walker said, is it's not the $2,000 to rent the ambulance. My question is, if we go ahead and rent the ambulance, who are on the ambulance? Because that's where the cost is the cost of our paramedics being on the ambulance. Especially if we're going to have an ambulance from May 5th, to which I'm not sure I understand. Is anyone here from OHS, Mock DWI, Bridge Street Run, Tri-Swigo Triathlon, or Paddle Fest advocating for an ambulance? No. So I mean, I still don't know if I understand that, but my question is, if we have it from May 5th to July 26th, however many people Oswego Fire Department put on the ambulance are going to be riding around on that ambulance on God knows what sort of computed time. And that's where the cost is. I mean, $2,000 to rent an ambulance isn't a stretch by any means, but the cost, yeah, we lose over $1,000 revenue a day. The cost is the people riding the ambulance, is my point. If there's no ambulance, you don't need people to pay the people on to ride the ambulance, which is where the real cost is, I guess. That's my point.
Okay, well, I can address most of your concerns. Like I said, the Harbor Fest overtime is already set aside, engaged. Nobody's going to be riding around in this ambulance from May 5th until the end of July. We would keep our staffing of 2 ambulances, except for the special events that it would be used for, and for the time that the 2 ambulances we have are down for maintenance. I will say this, we have staffing set aside for the Bridge Street Run. We have 2 paramedics in a pickup truck that doesn't transport. For the Bridge Street Run night, we take those and put them in this rented or purchased ambulance. And I would guess, based on other figures of the Bridge Street Run, we will make that $700 before midnight. The guys are being paid anyway. They're going to respond. It's a busy night. Instead of 2 paramedics being in a pickup truck, you're not transporting in that pickup truck, you need an ambulance. We would do the care, call Mentor. Mentor would come in whenever and take the fare and get the money. These 2 guys would be on that, and I think you're going to make your $700 right there. And that's all we're really talking about. I only proposed $1,300. It's up to you guys what you want to do. If you want to charge HarborFest the whole thing, if you want to charge HarborFest $1,000. I thought in fairness, because it is their responsibility that we need it for longer, but it's also our advantage to have this for longer for the reasons I've pointed out.
Yeah, and if I'm hearing you, Chief, so we have to have 2 ambulances go through a maintenance process and procedure. So we only have 2 ambulances technically on duty now, and that's all we're going to have, even with the additional. We're not talking about additional staff. We're talking about having the ambulances taken out of service, ours, so they can be maintained and put back in service. So that's part of that, what's going to happen between May and July, is what I'm hearing. And then only for those other events where you have individuals who are already on duty, who are obligated to respond. And we're just saying that instead of our paramedics, which are on a truck, which can't transport, they still have to be at that scene. They're obligated to be there. And then they hand them off to a private ambulance service versus us having that ambulance on hand, and then we would collect, instead of having that fee go someplace else, we would simply collect the fee. We would be collecting instead of somebody else, but still we'd have those guys on payroll anyways.
You're correct. And we would put a lot of the preventive maintenance into the 2 months that we have the extra ambulance.
So we're really talking about the difference between what HarborFest has given us for the ambulance and what $2,000, correct? If HarborFest has given us, let's say, $1,000, we're only asking for $1,000, so a total of $2,000. You get this for the 2 months.
It's $2,000 for that time, and last year it was $1,000. Whatever you guys want to negotiate with HarborFest, and it's still up in the air. It's not settled, but they know that they need an ambulance.
And I agree on this one here. I don't see this being firefighters on overtime. We have a shift of 14 people, and we have two firefighters who run an ambulance. So this is going to be done on their straight time, and it gives us a chance to work on the other ambulance that may have to come down for repairs. So I feel that we're going to, and in the meantime, we have those big events, and we're I would say that we're going to make our money back on this and then some.
Councilman McLaughlin.
On top of the $2,000, we're also responsible for any maintenance on that particular ambulance if something happens.
Yeah, we insure it, which is another cost, but if there's, however they word it in there, extraordinary damage or whatever, and general maintenance, last year there was some minor damage done to it, and there was no additional charge. It will be insured through the city.
Any other questions or comments? I know events like the triathlon reimburses for it. They've done that every year since they've done it. They've incurred extra costs for us to have an ambulance.
I'd like to move it, please.
Second.
Counselor Van Buren.
Yes.
Counselor Enright.
Yes.
Counselor Capelitz.
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counselor Todd.
Yes.
We need a resolution.
Chief. Yep. Item number 12 has been pulled. We'll move on to item number 13. Michael Smith, DPW Commissioner, requests discussion authorizing the purchasing agent to purchase a new CAT 420F single tilt motor backhoe with the standard equipment package, and there's an attachment. Mrs. Code.
Thank you, Counselor. This will be reimbursed by the CHIPS, and also the current backhoe that he's replacing will be placed on the auction list. It was determined between Mr. Smith, the DPW Commissioner, and our purchasing agent that it would be better to put it on the auction than to trade it. The value would be more.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mrs. Code. Any questions or comments?
I'll move it.
Second.
Counselor Van Buren.
Yes.
Counselor Enright.
Yes.
Counselor Capelitz. Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counselor Todd.
Yes.
I have an add-on for discussion, and I will turn it over to Councilor Capelitz for him to give you the information.
I know from time to time, some of us have had some informal discussions about this, and what I want to talk about is investigating the costs for installing GPS tracking on municipal vehicles. I think there are, and in the handouts to the council and mayor, and I've got a couple more here for the press if you want to see it. You can go online, you Google it, you can find tons of information about GPS and tracking. And this is the kind of thing that years ago it scared the heck out of everybody. It was Big Brother watching everybody and everything. And we're now in the 21st century. And whether or not we want to accept it, someday this will be state-of-the-art everywhere in municipality, especially when it comes to the use of public goods, services, vehicles, equipment, things of that sort. Many private companies employ this now. FedEx, as an example, on their truck, you can tell where any truck is at any time, what time it left the destination, what time a package was delivered, et cetera, et cetera. Let's think about what it can do for our city. We own a lot of vehicles. DPW, through the mayor's office, police, fire. Police is a question, and I understand we've had some discussions about that in vehicles, but there's probably already tracking devices stored on our police vehicles. But it can reduce costs. It creates accountability for vehicles and for those people that are responsible for those vehicles. It can improve driver safety. We can actually, with the tracking devices that are in place today, you can determine how fast the vehicle was going at a particular time and find out why it was going as fast as it was going at a particular time. You can find out whether vehicles are idling and where. I mean, I don't have to talk about the stories that I think all of us have heard about municipal vehicles, and not just here, but anywhere, that maybe spend too much time in one place that shouldn't be, or allegedly, and most of the time you look at the situation, it's not the case, you know what all the facts are, but at least you can ask the question. And also create accountability and tracking. When you have, for example, and I'll use snow plowing as the best example. There are many communities where they have GPS trackers on their snow plows. And you as the public can actually go on your own phone or on your computer and you can track where your snow plow is in your neighborhood. If we have, and many cities have, established plow plans that they have online. In this city, we happen to have 8 plow routes. There should be an order to how those roads are plowed. And when I get a call at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, as I'm sure these gentlemen do and the mayor does, wanting to know where the plow is, you should be able to track. You can go and look what the order is. It's a bad snowstorm. We're going to keep the emergency routes open. You got to understand and realize that. But as you progress in plowing in one of your 8 units, you should know where you're going to be on that list. Presidential Plaza, as an example, is the 12th area that will be plowed in that area. And if you go on your phone or online and see where that plow truck is, you'll have a pretty good idea, expectation of when you're going to be plowed out. There is a cost to it. Oh, I want to say this. It's not only vehicles, too, but it's equipment. You can actually put GPS, for example, on master keys. Who's got the master key? And we place a master key in City Hall. It's a huge expense. But if you can put a GPS tracker on a master key, you'll know where it is at all times. Several years ago, we had, I believe, a chipper that was stolen from our highway department. Today, it never happened. You have a tracker on it, you'll always know where that equipment is. We get a phone call about a truck that's, not in our city, but outside of the city in another county, and somebody calls and says, what are they doing here? You know what? We've got, you then, with GPS tracking, have, again, information that will make an individual responsible and accountable. There is a cost to it. I know in the handouts, Connecticut talks about one small town in Connecticut, somewhere around $11,000 they pay annually for the cost of the tracking. But I really do believe we need to start looking realistically at what these costs are. I don't think it's a huge expense. I think the benefits, fuel, safety, and a whole host of other things will be a tremendous benefit to this city. It really, it comes down to accountability. And whether we decide as a council to do this now, we can decide not to, but I would say that next year it'll be asked again. And probably in 5 years, somebody's going to say, why didn't we do it 5 years ago? I think it's time to come and do that, the cost of discussion about GPS tracking on our vehicles and our equipment.
Questions or comments? Councilman Wright?
It's interesting you brought that up tonight. I happened to get for a Christmas present a set of these 3 tiles. And these tiles are real small, about the size of a matchbook. You can connect them to your keychain or a dog collar or really anything that you want to track, your wallet per se. And just by picking up my cell phone or one on a computer, I can track wherever this is all over the city. And anybody that has a cell phone that is within range, without them even knowing it, will pick that signal up and transmit it back to my computer so I know where it is at all times. And my wife hasn't lost her keys to the car, and the dog has been safe now, and she escaped. I know exactly where she goes. So I think it's a great idea, and I don't know if you've done the research on the cost, but I wouldn't think it's really that costly anymore.
Councilor Walker.
Thank you. I think this is a good idea. County of Oswego does it. They're all monitored through the radio system. Go right into the radio, and I think whoever has the radio, go right into the radio system. I mean, you'd have to ask the price. It's not really costly through the year for the amount of equipment that the county has. And you just get a lot of accountability from the people, You don't go screw around like you used to. Things change.
Councilor Walker on this. Just the sole purpose of that accountability, so that as you're tracking, you start looking at the data that comes in, and start putting that data together and start looking at how you can work better and more efficiently, knowing where your people are at all time and how to go do them. I think that probably after the first year, you'll start seeing huge differences on how we're doing business and the money that we're going to save by getting better efficiency and more hours of work. As Sean says, you're not out driving around for that extra hour in the afternoon before you have to leave. I think that this will go a long way to making sure people stay on their job sites until the end of the day.
Any other questions or comments?
I'd like to make one more comment. It isn't like we think it is, Mike. We don't know where they are at all times. It isn't on a computer screen. It's a printout. When I do I'll tell you, when I do a run for the county, running the roads, there's a printout, probably 60 pages, where I traveled, every address that I went by, and times and everything. And that's how you calculate your speed and everything like that, so.
Council.
Yeah, the programs also have a history, and you can go back and you can look back for a whole month or further to see, or a year, and see where the vehicles have been. So I think this has been a long time coming. Hit the point where it's probably the cost of it is such that we can afford it. And I think Councilor ought to look into this and bring it forward for us for approval.
What I would ask is that request the mayor through the city chamberlain, the purchasing director, to look at what the options are for GPS tracking. I don't ask for anything more than that. I don't need a formal resolution other than we've had this discussion. And, you know, to me, and I go back to the horror stories of this past winter and our plowing and how hard everybody worked doing their job, and we know they did. But I just think we all sat there and received our phone calls and wondering where plows were and calling Mike Smith. And you know what? I think there's a real opportunity here to help organize our snowplow plan for the city of Oswego. And you know, in addition to what we may need to do parking-wise on a road, I really think there's some other real benefits here for the city to reap.
Council. Any other questions or comments? Ask that the mayor and the chamberlain, in a timely fashion, get back to us with some numbers and better information.
Council, can I have one other comment, if I may?
It wouldn't be like you if you didn't.
I didn't. I've been quiet up to this point. We were, by the beginning of this month, supposed to have a road maintenance plan put together for the CHIPS money and any other special funding. I can hear about our roads, and every time I want to have my teeth chatter, I just run down West First Street over by Friendly, and I can, set up and get in my car. I just, what's the status? We need to get that.
Commissioner Smith is on vacation. I had hoped to make a final presentation on what the city is doing on our end. Actually, I looked to Councilor Todd to give us an update. He's been working with Senator Ritchie's office. Some interesting updates that she has done since we've solicited some help from them and our state representatives, and Councilor Todd's gotten some great information from them on what they're doing as far as the 104 paving project is. Councilor, please.
During the budget, we started going to meet with Senator Ritchie in probably mid to late January, trying to explain that our road situation has gotten, specifically on Route 104, past the point of just simple maintenance anymore, that it's probably 3 years past when its official paving schedule was, and the DEC had it out 2 years. In addition to that, there hasn't been any real paving done in the city in probably 6 or 7 years that I can see. We explained to her the situation. During the budget cycle this year, she was able to allocate for the city of Oswego, in addition to the money that the state was already giving us, an additional $55,000 for us this year to go to paving. So between our CHIPS money from last year and this year, it puts us at a little over $1 million that we should have. And that's to be utilized for the other roads. I know Ron jokes about Route 104, and no matter how much I try to say this, it's not our road, it's the state's road. They need to fix it. They should have fixed it 3 years ago, and they have us on the schedule for either late 2016 or early 2017. Senator Ritchie's working on it now. They're trying to work with the DOT to force it into either late 16, late 15, or early 16 now, and to try and get that road completely redone this year. I know they were in town. She sent a representative down to the city of Oswego 2 weeks ago to go through Route 104 and to have a conversation with the DOT. I know that they've been in constant contact with them, and we're hoping to hear soon that the DOT will move that schedule up. And we're doing everything we can to get Route 104 done. Conversations with Mike Smith to put it in perspective. The area that needs to be done to repave and fix the road on 104 the way it actually needs to be fixed would take up most of our CHIPS money and most of the money that Senator Ritchie got for us extra this year. Which means to do just that section of road that belongs to the state, it's their responsibility, would mean that the rest of the roads in the city of Oswego would basically get nothing. So all the other roads, if they just did 104, will get nothing, and those roads will stay bad. It's the state's responsibility on this job. They should have done it 3 years ago, and they need to do it now. So hopefully we'll get to that. I just saw that Mayor Driscoll was just appointed to the, former Mayor Driscoll from Syracuse was just appointed to as the director to the DOT, so hopefully we can reach out to him. He seems to like to come to Oswego every time he needs a press conference, so maybe he'll come down here and give us some help. So if not, maybe he'll find a different line of work.
Thank you, Counselor.
Since we're on the subject, and I have to, since Mike is, Counselor Todd has had the floor, have we gotten anywhere about what we're going to do with our sidewalks? Because I don't know
Nobody's
about the
given
rest
an
of you
answer.
guys. I've got a bunch of phone calls here in the last week about fixing sidewalks, and I don't know what to tell them.
I've asked for specific.
We will be going in to have a discussion about that. Mr. Reynolds has asked for a little more time to finish his research from when we asked him to. It was put on him during a discussion, and he is finishing up what he'd like to look into as far as our charter goes and some other laws before we start this, and he will be back and we will start that. I believe next week, it is this week, he'll be back. Or the week after, and he will bring that to us.
Thank you.
Anyone else before we move on? Number 14, executive session. Gay Williams, City Attorney, requested an executive session regarding the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property, or the proposed acquisition of securities, or sale or exchange of securities held by such public body, but only when publicity would substantially affect the value thereof, specifically regarding 39 East Oneida Street, Church Street, and Building 30, Fort Ontario Park. I also have 2 add-ons for executive session. Rita Tickle, Personnel Director. Number 6, the medical, financial, or credit or employment history of a particular person or corporation or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. And Police Chief Tory DeCare, item number 6, the medical, financial, or credit or employment. You guys got it. So, can I have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Counselor Van Buren?
Yes.
Counselor Enright?
Yes.
Counselor Capelitz?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor Todd?
Yeah.
Oh, we're done, all right.
We call him Eric. Eric.